back, everyone, to another episode of Star Trek Zhuzh-erations. We've got quite the zhuzhing today, Mr. Farrick.
Yes, we do. We did not give ourselves an easy task this time.
So, this is my fault.
Yes, it is. Just to be very clear, this is all Jack.
No, this is Rick Berman's fault, but it's also, yes, my fault. But, you know, this is an episode that probably stacks very high on the list of any fan's list of episodes that should have been entirely different.
Yeah.
I think Scott Bakula would agree.
I think
Jonathan Frakes would agree.
I think, anyone who happened to be walking near the Paramount lot around that time would be free. Be free?
Right.
They're running away. That's how they're being free. They're running away from production on this episode.
Well, so I hope we can do some justice to the end of Enterprise, a show that I did not watch. Again, I am Jack Tracy. I have my co-host with me.
I am Sean Farrick, and I apparently am here to bring the Enterprise knowledge.
Yes. So for those of you joining us for the first time, we are Star Trek Zhuzh-erations. We are two homosexual writers who love Star Trek, and we would like to zhuzh the bad episodes. And we each pick an episode that we surprise the other with. I'm anxious to hear at the end of the episode what Sean has picked for next time. But I, last episode, picked These Are the Voyages, the final episode of Enterprise. Again, a show I did not watch very much at all. So I was constantly texting Sean while I was creating sort of my fix to the episode of like, wait a minute. Was this known before the episode? Is this important part of Enterprise? Because it's like it wouldn't make sense if I did something where, like, there were fans who watched Enterprise would be like, oh, but you can't do that because blah.
Folks, it was like reading a live breakdown. Like, I was just like, oh no, this is his first. Oh, honey, no, I'm sorry.
Did we know Shran was dead? Like, I love it when all the stakes of an episode are in expository dialogue and you learn it for the first time in the last episode.
Oh my god.
Really has a way of like being a bookend of the series.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. This natural progression that it came to. Right. Yeah.
Right. Also, and we'll talk about it, but before we get into the episode recap, that is not what poetic justice is. There is a line that infuriated me.
I'm forgetting that now. So obviously it's about
Captain Bakula, Archer, said something to someone about how they started their mission at Rigel and they're ending it at Rigel. How like, isn't that poetic justice? It's not poetic justice.
Full circle.
There's no justice to this. It's full circle. It's a bookend. It's like, who wrote this? Who wrote this?
There are names. Or, like, actually, now, here's one thing. I know we'll go into the summary now, but...
Right. We're so angry that we can't even do our segment.
Well,
we can't even do our podcast in order. We can't like structure these segments that we have so carefully structured, where we talk about the episode, then we do pros and cons, and then we both judge it because we're both so perplexed.
But actually, on that, you've been very good the last week. It's like, this is not us. There's no nastiness in what we're saying. This is pure, like...
Oh, yeah,
These Are the Voyages is exempt from that rule. It's certainly on my part anyway. It is exempt from the no, there's no nastiness. No, there are people who are very directly at fault for this episode.
Right. All right. So let's breeze through the plot of this episode very briefly. Let me pull up our good friends at Memory Alpha, not a sponsor, but God, do we love them. Mm-hmm. So for those of you who haven't seen this episode in a while or are fortunate enough to have never seen this episode, this is the final episode of Enterprise. We start off on the bridge with, it's what? Sato? Well, who knows, because they're barely in the episode at all. But Merriweather, Sato, and Merriweather, Sato, and Reed.
Yes, yep.
And they're doing the thing that I hate the most in any film property. Wow, I guess it's been 10 years, hasn't it? Wow, it has been 10 years. Wow, what a 10 years it's been. It's just like okay, we need these three people to act incredibly bored. It was the laziest opening. They were just like chilling on the bridge, didn't give a shit about anything. There was no excitement of the fact that apparently they were going to sign like the first Federation charter, which I guess is called the Coalition, and it's like pre-Federation.
Yeah.
But like, no pomp and circumstance. No, the actors are everything about these actors' performance, and I'm sure they are great in other episodes, and I'm sure they're wonderful actors. But everything about the actors' performances in this episode was, we are tired and bored. When do we go home? So we start off with that, and we learn that it's been, well, I guess it's been, has it been 10 years? Or it was 10 years from the beginning of the show, so it's been 7 years?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So 10 years since they piloted out of Broken Bow, and then it's been, show ran for 4 years, so it's been, in theory, 6 years since we've been aboard the Enterprise.
Question, is it broken bow or broken bow, like when the bow breaks?
I have heard both pronunciations, and I would have called it broken bow for the longest time, and then I heard a whole crap ton of people saying broken bow, so I'm just going to call it broke back.
And that you can see on Sean's OnlyFans, Brokeback Enterprise.
I wish I knew how to quit you, Archer.
Oh, well, that sounds like Trip right there, who is a great emulation of... that Trip character is George W. Bush. I can't unsee George W. Bush when I look at and hear Trip.
I just don't understand why he has this thick Texan accent, and he's from Florida.
I'm sorry, and my favorite show is where the French captain is British.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
no,
we gotta let that one go.
No,
we gotta let that one go. For every Patrick Stewart, we've got to get a person whose name I did not commit to memory.
Connor Chenier?
There we go. I've seen that name before. I really did not like this show. I stopped watching like 3 episodes in. Discovery, I at least made it to season 4. Anyway, we are going to this episode. Okay, so we get the stupid reveal, which is the camera pans super hard left, and surprise, it's a holodeck simulation on the Enterprise D. Riker looking tired. It was like... No, I don't want to say that. That's mean. I love all these people, but they did not do him any justice in this. So he's crammed into his next gen uniform. Again, my biggest problem when you go in the past, so far in the past, and Picard had a lot of these problems as well. Like, they obviously don't look anything like they did at the time. So, like, don't do it.
I hear what you... And that's...
Don't do it.
The problem with doing this in 2005 is that the only option they really had was makeup. In Picard, I remember when the first trailer came out and we saw Data, even Brent Spiner was like, what?
Aha.
Now, it did get better. It got a lot better compared to the trailer.
A little bit. Compared to the trailer, sure.
But there's some work better than others in Picard. But what they did do right in Picard, which they do wrong here in Picard, Riker is they got
Troy's actual Triker. They got Troy's actual wig instead of a Party City one.
Well, yes. But I mean, yes. But also, like, they look comfortable. Whereas here they've hampered themselves by going, right, this is set during season 7 of TNG. It's like, okay, good luck.
Right. So surprise, we're in the hologram of the Enterprise D. We'll talk about things we like and didn't like, but we get some really nice recreations of the Enterprise D set, which is something I loved in those opening shots of the Picard, the pilot episode of Picard. When you see 10 Forward, like, there was something magical about that. I'm fairly certain the footage they use... I was so excited because we saw the replicator and the waiter in the green uniform in 10 Forward take the cup out, and I'm like, oh my god, they really did this. Like, look at all of this stuff. And I was like, oh, it's reused footage. Because there was a season 2 uniform in the background.
Well spotted.
So it was early. It wasn't season 2. It was early TNG, though. It was like 3 or 4. I think it's the episode with Bink, 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 Bink. Is it Menage a Troi?
It is indeed Menage. I was just like, that is some expert vamping going on there. It is indeed Menage a Troi. And of course,
no, vamping. You know what that is. I wasn't vamping. Those are the...
You're doing it very well.
Those are the ceremonial rhythms that Wesley hears in the static. Bink, 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 bink.
Oh, it's been a while
bink,
that
bink,
I've
bink.
seen it.
Remember, so they hear that in 10 forward, there's like some ceremony going on, and that's what Riker puts in the static when he breaks into the Ferengi computer to signal to Wesley where they are.
Oh, no
he hears
memory
the
of
clicks.
that. Good memory.
Oh, I love that. In fact, I just because that came to memory when I saw that. I wrote it down. I want to, please don't sue me, incorporate that melody into one of my. I do music. I want to incorporate that melody into one of my songs. I think it'd be funny. Just for
By
me,
the way,
'cause
sorry,
I only
the little
have it.
casual. I do music. Yeah, check out this man's music videos, Mister I do music over there. Yeah, he does a little bit more than that.
That's not. Thank you. That's not what this not what this podcast is about. This is not yet a shameless self-plugging device.
Oh, it's not.
Which,
I'll
if
put
you
the
would like
sign
to
away,
see,
yeah.
which if you would like to see shameless self-plugging, please subscribe to Sean's OnlyFans.
I have no problem with shameless self-plugging. Thank you very much.
Oh God, we got to get back to this episode.
Do we?
All right. So surprise. So we find out we're in Pegasus, the episode Pegasus, which is a solid episode, but I don't think like a major epic fan favorite. Like, it's a great episode. It's one of the really good ones of that era, but it's not like Best of Both Worlds. It's not Yesterday's Enterprise. It's like
No,
it's just a solid.
It's a key Riker episode, but I mean they're reaching. They are reaching when they're looking for. We need him to be on the holodeck to make a decision.
Which I completely abandoned. So, he has to make a decision about whether to tell Picard about the fact that Admiral Pressman, his old captain, and they did the experiments with the cloaking device, and he's forbidden to tell Picard. Now, I should have gone back and watched Pegasus before doing this, but I saw some fan criticism that basically they also got wrong where all of this is supposed to be happening in this episode doesn't make sense because Riker actually never tells Picard.
No, you.
Apparently, I've got to re-look at this.
Yeah, the way they frame it in this doesn't match up with the reveal in the episode itself. Yes, you're right. Yeah.
So dumb on dumb on dumb. Okay. Other gripe. How do you recreate the Enterprise so beautifully and get the wrong fucking turbolift? When Troi goes into the turbolift, that's not the Enterprise D turbolift.
I'd have to look
It's
at
got
that
like
again.
tan carpeting on the wall. What the fuck is this?
I definitely.
It was weird. It was not the
again.
Enterprise D. It was not the Enterprise D turbolift. Everything else was great. It's not the Enterprise D turbolift. So, basically, he needs to make a decision. He hasn't told Troi what's going on, and Troy's like, okay. She's both like, she apparently suggested to him to go replay this fantasy of the Enterprise in the holodeck to teach him a lesson about obeying orders, which makes no sense. And then she later says that she's never, ever run the program herself. So she's recommending to him a program that she's never actually done to help him make a major life decision, when I don't know, he could probably just pull up a pad and read about it. Dumb. Dumb on dumb on dumb on dumb. So we find out that what the historical moment that he's looking at is right before they sign the first coalition charter treaty, whatever, that then eventually turns into the Federation. They are surprised by a hail from Shran. God love Jeffrey Combs, who, as Sean told me, because I didn't know this, apparently had not been killed in Enterprise.
Alive and well.
Proper run.
Yeah.
Was alive and well by the very end. And then they give a exposition of like, I thought he was dead. But he's not dead. So surprise and undo the surprise within 3 seconds. So no stakes. No one cares. Everyone thought he was alive anyway. So this means nothing. He's alive. And he has a daughter. Another surprise. So another new stake in an episode randomly. Last episode. So again, no one cares. And he needs Enterprise's help in rescuing the daughter. They decide, I guess this is the lesson about, is Trip breaking orders when he like commits suicide, or is it this is the breaking? What about this is a lesson in breaking orders? I don't understand. Like what about this? So they broke orders because they diverted themselves to go help Shran, or Trip broke orders because he had later Archer, hit by the mercenaries so that he could murder all of them, rather than like any other Star Trek episode, bide your time while you're figuring out a solution. God. Anyway, don't understand. So also Troi, the fuck, this is your example. Unclear as to why this is an example for Riker to learn about breaking orders. Unclear. Also, they could probably have learned this from any other. Oh, my earbud fell out because I was so upset. It literally, the steam pushed
Absolutely,
the
yeah.
AirPod out of my ear. Also, so there's a million episodes of TNG that these characters were all involved in, which could teach you a lesson about whether to break orders or not and where the line is. There's a million Prime Directive episodes. But no, we need to visit this extremely minor, strange offshoot of, from hundreds of years ago.
Because someone didn't read the contract properly, and Frakes and Marina Sirtis have to jump whenever they say.
Right. So weird. So they rescue the daughter. They steal some crystal, which was the shittiest prop I've ever seen. Doesn't look cool or expensive or rare or anything at all. It looks like literally costume jewelry. Yeah, Shran, his daughter got kidnapped because these mercenaries thought he stole a gem. So he goes and returns Was the gem important in Enterprise, or was this also new?
Literally, don't put any thought into this. None of it has any kind of comeback.
Right. So there are no comebacks in this episode. There are no payoffs. It's literally just new information and immediately disposed of. Great. So we've got this stupid crystal that Shran apparently stole. So they make a fake one because he didn't steal it, but they need the daughter back. So they make a fake one to return it and then get the daughter back. T'Pol goes down with him. They get the daughter back. Turns out the crystal was turned into a strobe light. So that actually I thought was a really cool effect.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
I liked the sort of blinding. And then, because they do it so that Shran can get away from the mercenaries. So they already got the daughter. T'Pol's already out of the way. They do the flashy light thing so that Shran can run away. And then they decide, the crew of the Enterprise decides, you know what, while we're here, let's just murder all these mercenaries.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say, Enterprise was a lot freer when it came to shooting people than, say, Next Gen was, or...
Well, so here I am trying to justify it, which is they don't have transporters, right? Or, they don't have, regular access of transporters. It's a lot of shuttlecraft stuff.
A lot of yeah.
So I think maybe, if I'm giving it any credit, it's like, okay, we do need a firefight, because I can't just have the ship beam us up. We got to get back to that shuttle. So, we've got to get from here to there, and there are these people out there who now really hate us, and they have guns. So, I think there's some reasoning in that. I think that's fine to make it a little more Wild West because we don't have handy technology to just scoop us out of bad situations. I'm kind of okay with that. But man, not a good look for the crew of the Enterprise. Just tricking a bunch of people who think that someone stole from them, all because they like Blue Guy.
Joe,
and then murdering.
That has just reminded me, sorry, Jack, of there's got to be one of the Makos that's like Crumbambula's Mike from Rick and Morty. It's like, oh, here I go, killing again. I just love killing. Yeah. It's like, we'll just send him down. He'll have a great time. He'll take them all on himself.
It's so weird. Weird shots of Riker watching it, things that will haunt my nightmares, down angle shots of a very tired Jonathan Frakes watching people get murdered. That's weird. In a balcony. Then we have the fake out, because we've heard from a line from Troi when they go to the holodeck together, and they take a little museum tour of the ship. We learn that Trip isn't going to make it back, so we get the fake out. Trip almost falls off the balcony. Is this it? Is this him? Not? No, he's fine. Dumb. Because they've already foreshadowed that Trip's going to die. We know Trip's going to die. We have some weird conversations between Trip and T'Pol, which is probably next to the chemistry between Frakes and Sirtis is the only enjoyable part of the episode. Jolene Blalock is a phenomenal actress, and justice for Jolene Blalock. She's great.
Agreed. No, absolutely agreed.
She's great.
She got done dirty.
She really did. I think she even got worse than Jerry Ryan. Jerry Ryan got put on the show for Berman to jerk off in his office to her tits. And Jolene Blalock was even worse.
Well,
sorry, allegedly.
I have, I mean, when we're discussing background, I have things on that. But I think she does a great job as much as possible in this episode because,
yes,
I mean, not all of it. I've watched all of Enterprise and you haven't, but you can see there is a growth throughout the 4 seasons, and I think she is so natural compared to what we've seen over 4 seasons for T'Pol. Season 4
Right.
just continued getting really, really good. I really think the material was there for her to be one of the all-time great characters, and
Yeah.
of course just
Yeah.
pulled the rug out from under her.
So she and Connor, Trip, whoever, they actually have really great chemistry. I like their conversations. I liked her characterization of feeling like the whole conversation was like, I'm going to miss you, because that's a good thing for like a series finale. It's a good theme to have your characters go through about missing each other, that they're all moving on, and her dealing with it in a Vulcan way. I don't care about their relationship, but it was, because I didn't watch the show, but I liked the two of them together. I liked that scene. It felt very real, of like colleagues who have a very old romantic, dead romance, kind of like at an inflection point because they're all moving on, sort of things stirring. I actually really liked that.
Yeah.
I thought that was nicely done.
I agree. I think the two of them, they were a really, really good double team.
And if you would like to see a really good double team, make sure to subscribe to Sean's OnlyFans. I'm just going to say that throughout every
no
episode.
problem
that we do.
with Seamus self-plugging, so
Right.
thank you, Jack, for jumping on that.
That's a great like Irish porn star name, Seamus self-plugin.
Fuck me, that's actually really good. That's really good.
I'm Seamus. No, I'm not gonna do an accent. I'm Seamus self-plugin. This episode is already off the rails. I apologize, listener. I apologize. Oh, the one of you, I apologize. So, I mean, the episode just kind of so we get done. So they rescue the daughter. Trip's not dead. They get back on course. They're going back to the thing. So all of that was just a random adventure that didn't mean anything. Shran disappears. We never see him again. Thanks for the daughter. Calls him pink skin. There's a lot of racism in this episode too.
That's, I mean, not defending it, but yeah, like over 4 seasons, Shran consistently calls Archer pink skin. It becomes a term of endearment, but it is in every single time. It's like, this is racist. Like, this
And
is
it's just
racist.
lazy. It's like someone's like, let's make him sound like a alien. It's just it is no ugly bags of mostly water.
Yes, yeah.
That's great. Pink skin is dumb. That's from what, Evolution on Next Gen?
Ugly bags of mostly water. No, we're going back to Home Soil season 1.
It's the first. Oh, that's Home Soil. I thought it was the nanoprobes with Wesley. No, it's Home Soil. It's the little crystals that are alive in the mines.
Exactly,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and killer Data fight and killer laser. So anyway, don't talk about better episodes. This episode. Right. So they're going to the coalition, and it turns out, those mercenaries that we didn't murder them all. Whoops. And here they are. They somehow attack the ship, which we see no exterior shots of. They get on board the Enterprise. They ambush, or they Tucker and Quantum Leap go to intercept. They don't have any weapons on them to intercept intruders. Cool. Smart decision, guys. Then Trip does this elaborate. Okay. These mercenaries are the stupidest mercenaries in the world. Oh, to call Shran with the communications relay, you have to take this pipe and connect it up to this tube and this pipe in this secret corridor. Tap a control panel and call them.
Yeah.
Like, why did anyone believe?
Just can't get
So,
good mercenaries anymore, Jack.
They're doing. I mean, the Nausicaans maybe. Maybe the Nausicaans would fall for something like that because they had them talk stupid.
Human play dumb jot.
Play dumb jot, human. You have no gramba. So, and if you'd like to see a good gramba, make sure to subscribe to Sean's OnlyFans. This will not stop. This will never stop.
Best damn fucking PR manager ever.
So, get your gramba on. So, yeah, it's dumb. Trip, I'm gonna call Shran down here, guys, and then ends up just like committing suicide and blowing them all up, which seemed like an overreaction. It seemed like there were other means to deal with this.
Just really didn't want to go to that treaty signing.
No, he didn't want to leave that ship. Anyway, so now Trip's dead. Archer doesn't seem to care very much. There's absolutely no emotional impacts to Archer with whatever. We have him go into the. I actually have to say I did like the sickbay scene, and when he gets put in the tube, and he like gives the wink, and then the next cut is like they're packing up his shit in the quarters. I actually really liked that because that was pretty rough.
It was, yeah.
That was a punch. That's like a Kalar bloody dead punch because that episode always gets. I cry in that episode every time when Duras murders Kalar and they find her. Like that kind of like surprise gut punch. Even not watching Enterprise, it got me a little bit. Like he goes into the tube, he's gonna be fine. Next cut, she's packing up his things. Oof.
That's good stuff. They just moved him out of the room. They were like, well, we don't want to deal with this anymore. Into the cupboard with you. Was that supposed to do something? Was that like supposed to a biobed? No. We were making room.
No,
for
it was
they
said it was a hyperbaric chamber or something to like to help him have lung control because he like fused his lungs or something.
Back to tank.
Anyway. They just put him in the morgue while he was still alive. They just wanted to save time.
What about chances, Doc?
Get him in. They should have had Phlox do the smile, but like a big frowny face, like Is Trip gonna make it? CGI smile, CGI frown. Nice that they did the CGI smile for Phlox in his 2 lines in this episode because I do remember that from Broken Bow. So that was a nice little callback. And then I don't know if they ever did it again on the show, like the separation of the. Times, Okay, like the separation of the Enterprise D on Next Gen, twice and done.
And for more twice and done, check out Sean's OnlyFans.
There we go. It's not as funny when you do it.
Wasn't meant to be.
You have to let
me. That one.
You have to plug. I have to plug your stuff. You have to plug my stuff. That's how this works. And if you would like to see Sean plug my stuff, please donate to our Patreon. Back to this terrible episode.
Must we, Jack? Must we? Come on, let's wrap this up.
Well, I mean, we're done. Right, we're done. So somehow Riker learns a lesson from this that he should tell Picard about cloaking technology. Why? Don't know. Don't care. They're all at the ceremony that they get to. They hire 6 day players to fill out the crowd watching the ceremony. We've got the Sona bridge wall as the backing wall to their little conference room from Insurrection. And they have a little chat. They have a hug, which was kind of nice. The hug was kind of nice.
And
Archer hugs to Paul.
Terrible episode, well-earned hug. That was a nice payoff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was nice. And then he goes out to give a speech we don't see. And Riker and Troi are like, wow, isn't it so cool? Don't you wish you could tell these holograms that they're forming the Federation? Neat. Also, there's a lot of like lines like, all good things come to an end.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of like,
leave this for the next generation was another one.
Right, that's another one. Like, ham-fisted nonsense. Anyway, so then the series ends with a fart, and that's it.
I did like, it wasn't amazing, but when you're grasping for straws in this episode, I did like the closing montage of the 3 ships named Enterprise that all had.
Yes.
Yeah, so I did like that. But
so let me just, before we go into our pros and cons, let me just read. I have handwritten notes here. Usually I do it on my phone, but this one I wrote down because I wanted the anger to fuel the movement. And so I just want to read the things that are biggest and in all caps. Those notes are, I hate this theme song. The stakes are dumb.
Someone doesn't have faith in the heart.
Acting is terrible. Day players suck. Holodeck has no stakes. Rain check was dumb. Data's not that stupid. This is someone who didn't know how to write data.
Yeah.
Data line was dumb. Rain check was dumb. So dumb. Money? When Trip talks about, like, you know, trusting people, then, I mean, I trust people not to take my money. There's still money? Is there still money on Enterprise?
No.
No.
No, there isn't. Certainly not in Earth.
Dumb. So, do you have any memories of watching this episode in its original run?
Just pure disappointment. Honest to God, pure disappointment and kind of confusion as well. I'm not sure if I was aware, because this is 2005, so I'm not sure if I was aware the show had been cancelled. Let's say, for argument's sake, that I didn't know. So I was watching this going like, this is such a hodgepodge of different ideas and different bits. But by 2005, on the initial run, I had watched seasons 1 and 2 weekly, dropped off completely for season 3, which I now know was stupid. As in, I should have kept watching it. Got immediately better as soon as season 3 started. And then I had kind of dipped in and out of 4. So by the time I got to these Voyages, a lot of things were confusing. For example, I had no idea about T'Pol and Trip. And the rest of the, as you say, the rest of the characters don't really matter in this episode. And the whole Shran thing confused me because, like, wait, Shran died?
Right.
You know?
I knew there was a whole naked Trip to Paul space gel sexy time rub scene. Like, I knew that happened. Oh.
Yeah. Enterprise arrived horny.
The Rick Berman of it all. So we ran late on this segment because we kept taking diversions to talk about more pleasant things. But a quick wrap up for me of things. So my memory of it was I did catch it. So I was in college, or I either just graduated. I don't think I was in New York yet. I was still at Penn State, and in those days I had one of those TV cards in my desktop computer, like a cable card.
I don't think I know that.
So it was like you had your Ethernet thing that you put in the back of your desktop, so that you could connect to the school internet, and then you had I bought this cable card that had whatever the cable TV, the little thing that you screw in when you're in your apartment. So that cable could go right into my computer, and then I had this software that was basically pre-DVR DVR, and you could program it to go to a certain channel at a certain time and like record the thing.
That's very impressive for 2005.
Right. So I had set that to record this episode because I knew Riker and Troi were in it, and I just wanted that. It didn't work because it was buggy, and so there was a guy in our college who had a shared drive in the dorm who would regularly download, like there was like every episode of The Simpsons, every episode of Family Guy, bunch of Star Trek. He just had a whole library and just let people access it, and he had it. So I went and got it and watched that. And I remember being like, ooh, Data, ooh, Data's voice, ooh, Riker, ooh, Troi. Oh, look at that Enterprise set. This episode's dumb, but man, do I like seeing them.
And I think, from what I can tell, that's what the showrunners were hoping you would feel. That the nostalgia would overpower the actual dumb fuckery of what was going on around you.
Right.
So it's like, oh, but here's Riker. Oh, but here, this is all wonderful.
Right.
It didn't work.
So things I liked, I'll do quick things I like, things I hate. You can do the same, and then we've got to get to our zhuzhing, because man, do we have some zhuzhing to do. Things I liked, Riker and Troi chemistry, seeing some of those Enterprise D sets rebuilt, Trip and T'Pol chemistry. I do generally like, they did it poorly, but I like the idea of a episode, it's almost like a reverse, or almost like a Trials and Tribulations kind of thing, where it's like, I like the concept of using the holodeck to visit an older time. Like they did it for a moment in Relics, where they bring up the old bridge. Like they didn't do the whole episode around it, but I do kind of like touring, like the museum aspect of it. Like I like it as a concept. And I liked that they did it like the birth of the Federation now should have had more of a undiscovered country plot line where there are actual stakes and the fate of forming the Federation is at stake. Yeah. Instead of this weird random errand with Shran. And then Jeffrey Combs. He's great.
Yep.
Oh, one last question. Was there a cook on the Enterprise? Did we ever see a cook?
There was a cook, and the most we ever saw, I think, was their hands. So that was a clever way of bringing Riker in.
Kinda. I mean, it would be better if it were a character that were featured like Morn or Mott.
There was rumors
so that
of
we
Shatner.
Actually knew them. Oh,
Yeah,
he was busy doing Boston Legal. Danny Crane. So things I hated, everything else. You, Sean?
Brant, well, so things I liked. If you look at the episode in complete isolation, there are quite a few nice character moments. You mentioned as well, Trip and T'Pol. Phlox gets not much to do, but he gets one or two moments. Mayweather gets a line, which was pretty good at that point in Enterprise. And Reed is Marmite, because for a long time he can be like insufferably duty and honor bound, and then he's tiny bit like this is Reed relaxed, which tells you about Reed. Archer, yeah, there is a bit of somnambulism going on with Scott Bakula in this episode, and as I say, it's because he did not like what was happening around him, but he's still professional, he still did his job, but it just, yeah, the agency of the episode have been taken out, which leads me then, well, no, and also, sorry, Jeffrey comes, so that leads me then into my dislike. There are no stakes whatsoever for let alone it being the show finale, like even a season finale, there's no stakes. And which is a shame as well, because now this is the director as opposed to the writer, but the director is Alan Croker, and he did What You Leave Behind and Endgame. Yeah, so it's just like, it was, now he didn't only do those two episodes, but he knows how to helm some strong series finales, because both of those, I would probably maintain that All Good Things is probably the best overall series finale from Star Trek, but for me, What You Leave Behind is snapping at its heels.
Absolutely, agreed.
And so which makes this one even more disappointing, knowing the talent that was behind the camera on this episode. There is an overarching feeling of we've just got to get this done,
right?
Which goes away toward not condoning, but explaining that bring in Riker and Troi, then you don't need to worry about setting a lot of the story, because look, everyone knows the story of Pegasus, which was a risk. That was 11 years previously. I will say that.
Right.
Like, and it's not like, okay, by 2005, yes, all right, DVD was a thing. But like now, streaming, what's Pegasus? Pause, back to Pegasus. Okay, grand, I've watched that. Back to this. No, those two things don't add up.
Right.
So...
Yeah. And how it's very sad for the cast of the Enterprise, like, to have Riker and Troi there to like their camaraderie, chemistry, familiarity. Like, the two of them are just fucking buddies, and I love them. And the love they have for each other bleeds through the characters. The love that Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis have for each other makes the love for Will and Deanna real. And seeing just even their little bits on the Enterprise, like have dinner later, sure, like all of that, and then look at the Enterprise characters, it just pales in comparison. There's no love between these people who have been on a ship for 10 years. There's no, like, other than Trip and T'Pol. It's disservice to have such a to show, like, oh, this is what a cast that really, like, hits on all cylinders. That's what this is like, and we're gonna hold it next to this series, which failed. Yeah, like, poor. All right, we've got a lot to do, and we've complained about this episode a lot. So we'll be right back after this break to get two different zhuzhings of this episode. And I'm excited to see what you pitch. All right, set phasers to Zhuzh, because here we go. So here's how I'm setting it. Like, what the rules I gave myself. So first off, didn't watch Enterprise. So I did not make this a wrapping up the themes of season 3, season 4, wrapping up character themes, because I don't know any of that. So I didn't do that. I kept Riker and Troi, because apparently we were just going to use Riker and Troi. And I kept I like the idea of putting this on the eve of the Coalition. That makes sense for the end of Enterprise. I kept the time jump, that it's 10 years later, like it's later. I kept all of that as sort of, and I kept in mind sort of like, okay, It was a canceled television show getting one last episode that was on a network that was on the, downward spiral. So I didn't include anything that would have been like too far out of the budget. I tried to at least put myself in the shoes of what they could have done rather than like, give it a huge budget, a next gen budget or something. Like I tried to at least like make this possible. It might have been a little too much. It may not have been enough. So that I gave those limitations to myself in creating this. So I also wanted to bring back Jeffrey Combs, but no Shran, because I like him as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
But he plays so many characters. Why not give him another? So I made Jeffrey Combs the villain of this episode, and as a new character. So
is he an artificial AI?
No. So it opens on Romulus.
Interesting.
We open on Romulus, and we're not sure when it is. We see Romulus surround the planet, surrounded by a bunch of like freighters and things that aren't obvious to give us like, oh, that's a Romulan ship of this era, that's a Federation ship of this era. We don't know.
Okay.
And we go into like some, not command center, but some sort of like office military, building of some sort. And you've got Jeffrey Combs as a Romulan. And he is talking to a bunch of other Romulans, and they're all dressed in whatever Romulans would have dressed like in. It's like some civilian. So again, things that I don't want the audience to know what time we're in. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of vague. So they're talking about now as that some sort of setting up like it's the day, like we're gonna everything's set, we're gonna go. They're about to do something, and we're getting the sense that preparations have been made. And a young Romulan officer runs in and says, the Federation captain is back. And they're all kind of perplexed about, and he wants to see you. And they're all kind of perplexed about that. And they're like, we basically similar to like unification. Like we set up a ruse. The ship shouldn't be here. Like they should be investigating that thing that we set up. And the Romulan, and it's like, fuck. They're all like, fuck. And they're like, and the Jeffrey Combs character is just like, it's fine. We'll get rid of him. It's fine. And he goes, but he brought the empath. So they're like, we have nothing to hide. And in walks Captain Riker of the USS Titan and Deanna Troi.
Okay.
So they look post-Nemesis, because this is 3 years post-Nemesis in like real time. Because Nemesis was 2002, this is 2005. So they look appropriate, and they're wearing the right costumes, and they're still their characters. So we get sort of this ominous Troi kind of giving Riker a look like, you're right, like some sort of like, there is something going on. I'm sensing like they have the relationship. She doesn't need to say anything, but you see a look where she kind of gives him the, yeah, something's going on here. And we get the sense that we learn very quickly that basically Titan is there as part of like this Federation envoy, because there were all these talks about a potential accord between the Romulan people and the Federation because of post-Nemesis events, that Romulus is in a free fall because of all the, Shinzon killed all of those people. We get some like Nemesis references just so we know that Romulus is in this free fall, and we get the sense that Jeffrey Combs, who's like either a senator or a Tal Shiar person or something, is deeply unhappy about, the potential, working relationship or affiliation between the Federation and the Romulans. But it's like a, not an aggression, but just sort of like shitty one-off comments. Just like we just get the sense he's not happy about it. And what we learned that Riker is there to, I'm sorry. It's also important that there is a security guard with Riker who is an Andorian.
Okay.
A new Andorian character. His chief of security on the Titan, somebody. But it's important. So the Riker is there to confront about, there have been some recent shipments of, supplies and stuff and this and that. And basically the Titan is exposing the fact that there have been some contraband and some stuff over the last few months that they have noticed being diverted to a particular place. And Riker gives this speech about, we worked together during the Dominion War, we this and that, we're done with these. He's kind of pissed. Like, we're done with this, cloak and dagger, whatever game you're running, it's done. We're in a new time where, we've worked together before. We're about to sign this affiliation. We're working together again. We're working together now. Whatever you're doing, whatever this is, it's not, it's not like he's just being like, cut the shit. Right. Mm-hmm. And Shran, it's not Shran, it's Jeffrey Combs as a Romulan. He gives some sort of one-off remark about like, when we first met your people, referring to the Romulan War, which we never saw on Enterprise, there was a time when the tables might have been turned and you might have been seeking us, you may have been crippled and seeking us for help. And there's a reference to that. There's a moment of sort of like, what are they going to do? The Romulans suddenly just beam away. Like execute program, whatever the Romulan's name is, Tashar, call him Tashran.
Yeah,
Tashran,
like that.
Yeah, right. Execute Tashran 7. They all beam out. Riker taps the comm badge. Riker to Titan. Where, there was an emergency beam out. Where do they go? It's the place where we've noticed the contraband has been going. A line from the Titan would be nice if it was a reference to the books. If you want to get a voiceover, because I have no data voiceover, have it be Tuvok. Because in the books, Tuvok is on the Titan. So have Tim Russ do the voiceover. That he's up on the ship saying, they beam to the location of that we've noticed that the contraband's been going to. We're getting temporal. Riker's like, okay, site-to-site transport, beam us and a security team directly to that, place. Tuvok warns on the comm, there's a massive energy buildup, temporal distortions, blah, 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 blah. Riker's like, even more reason to go and then not to go. Let's go. So Troi, Riker, the security guard are met by a team, which includes a Tellarite and a Vulcan and another human, a science person, an engineering, like a team. And they beam in. The Romulans were already gone. It's some machine. It's some complex. It's something. The Romulans were already gone. They quickly figure out they executed some sort of time thing. They've traveled somewhere. They don't know where. There's nothing left. And they figure out that, like, they weren't planning on coming back. There's no one here. Like, there's no one here to get them back when they're done doing whatever they want to do. They don't plan on returning. So, and they also find, which is important, some device where they don't know what it is, and it seems to be a hollow emitter, and the Andorian puts it on and clicks it, and suddenly, to outward appearance, they're a Vulcan. So they have these hollow, rather than like what they did on Next Gen, where they like had them go under like major surgery to look like another alien. This is like a hollow emitter that's like a disguise. So they know the Romulans have gone back in time. We don't know when, but they're disguising themselves as Vulcans, and they had no plan on returning. So Riker's like, okay, well, we need to follow them back. And can you figure out, to the science officer, can you do it? It's like, yeah, I can just run the program the way that they did, but there's no program here to come back. Like, we don't know. And Riker and Troi are like, well, I guess you'll have to figure that out. Here's a transponder. Bring us back. And maybe one of the officers being like, you're the captain of the ship, you can't go. And there are two people in this room who have experience in going back in time and stopping things from happening in the timeline, and that's myself and Commander Troi. We're going. So they go through the portal, and now you've got an Andorian, a Tellarite, a human, and a Vulcan having to problem solve and work together to figure out how to get them back.
Okay.
They emerge, and what's happened? So now I don't have a point by point, but what it is, instead of a holodeck episode with no stakes, this is the birth of the Federation, and the Andorians pulled out in the 11th hour because there's still animosity between them and the Vulcans, which I understand was like a thing in Enterprise.
Yeah.
And basically, the way history has it is Archer is the one that is sent to go speak to whoever, and to Paul and get, the Andorians to like come back into the signing to form the coalition. There's like an 11th hour, like, oh shit, are the Andorians going to be part of this or not? And what the Romulans are trying to do, the Romulans it's basically a we're stronger together message. We're stronger when we work together, and the Romulans know that the Romulans think if the Andorians never joined the Federation, the Romulans would have beat the Federation in the Romulan War. And that's what they're trying to stop. It's very first contact. They're trying to stop the formation of the Federation in the first place because they think, Romulus has been brought to its knees and now they have to kowtow to the Federation because of all this stuff. And the lesson is, no, it's all of your plotting and Shinzon nonsense. You did this to yourself. Like, you are the cause of your own demise. So it's this competing messages of like isolationism and nationalism from the Romulans versus the coalition that's now forming with Enterprise, which is the first Federation, and the new coalition with the Federation and the Romulans in a post-Shinzon world. And you have, on the Enterprise, it's not decommissioning, it's the first exercise in integrating the Andorian version of Starfleet, the Vulcan Science Academy, whatever the Tellarite is, and like Sato's teaching, about how the communication systems works to a Vulcan person, and it's all this sort of working together, learning the ship because they're all going to be integrated as a crew. They introduce new uniforms, which are the TOS uniforms, or like a zhuzhed up version of it. Like we see things are. It's like the eve of the real sort of like TOS era, right? And Riker and Troi, having these hollow emitters, are now also sort of Vulcanized, and they are trying to basically find these Vulcans. We find out that Jeffrey Combs and his team have replaced the Vulcan envoy on the Enterprise that is learning the ship and whatever, and their plan is basically, as a Vulcan, as part of the Vulcan envoy, to blow up or assassinate or something this Andorian ambassador that they've gone to talk to, so that it would just push the Andorians to not be part of this. That's what they're there to do. Sort of eve of, who was it? World War II. They assassinated the whatever,
World
History.
War I, Archduke.
World War I. There we go.
Archduke Franz Ferdinand.
Yes, thank you. It's been a while. So very much that. So it's Riker and Troi behind the scenes, and we can have all those moments of them like, oh, look at this old ship. Oh, isn't this so interesting? Very trials and tribulations thing. But they're not. They're running around trying to find Jeffrey Combs. You've got Archer trying to negotiate the Andorians and giving all these speeches about like we're stronger together, and this alliance has been built for so long. Why are you pulling out now? And it's convincing the Andorian basically what they would hope to convince Romulan Jeffrey Combs, that like no, we're stronger when we work together. That we're and these flash cuts to the Titan team, and not a lot of it because this should focus on the Enterprise team, but this flash cut to the future of an Andorian, a Tellarite, a human, and a Vulcan, straight up Star Trek problem solving, trying to figure out the science of how to get Troi and Riker back, and showing how these different people with different experiences and just showing not telling the message of like, see what we can do when we work together. We solved this problem and we got Riker and Troi back. And I want the payoff of stopping the Romulans. I don't want Enterprise to know that Riker and Troi are there. I don't want like Riker going to Archer's quarters and being like, I'm from the future. None of that. They're just running around. We see them in the background trying to do things, trying to figure stuff out. The main plot line is the Enterprise trying to keep the Andorians in the deal. And the sacrifice at the end can be Trip can somehow sacrifice himself to save because Jeffrey Combs could almost kill whatever they're trying to do, whether it's a ship blow up or a phaser or whatever it is they're trying to do to kill him. Trip, who through the episode is maybe he's the character that's like from Undiscovered Country, like, I'm not sure about this, like it's gonna be weird. I like things the way they are. It's gonna be weird to, not really be the way we were anymore. And in the end, he sacrifices himself to save the Andorian ambassador, to save the Alliance.
Okay. I don't like the Trip still dies, but
I just wanted to keep as much of some of these plot points, and because it's the end of Enterprise, and they weren't ever going to do anything with Enterprise again, and you want a character death to have a payoff.
Yeah,
he's saving the Federation, basically.
Which is better than some randomers just beamed aboard.
Right, blowing some mercenaries. So yeah, I don't have like an act by act, but that's the general theme. And maybe at the end, when they get back on the Titan, there can be something where some sort of reference where like Tucker is the name of something because he's an important figure because
yeah.
like he's the name of
Yeah.
something. The other ship that's with the Titan, the shuttlecraft they were on, something that just signals that like he was like very integral. So then to also give his death a lot of like gravitas. They kind of credit him of saving the Federation. Yeah, and then it's some little you get some parting stuff of Troi and Riker going back to the Titan. I bet they don't have the budget, so we don't see the. Maybe we see a CGI Titan the way we saw the CGI Enterprise D. Like we have the budget for that, but we don't go on the Titan because like I assume they didn't have the budget to build a set that would have done that ship justice. You don't want a shitty Titan set. So like
I say we just lift the footage from lower decks.
right. Yeah, and then we end with them at the ceremony of the coalition. And we actually get Jonathan Archer being very upset about Trip's death instead of sort of being blasé about it. And yeah, and that's the end of the episode. So I tried to keep some of the major points and just no holodeck, actual stakes, give us some time travel, but also Troi and Riker are not the focus. They
feature, but they're not.
They feature, and they're getting us to the adventure. They're taking us into why we are 10 years ahead in Enterprise timeline, right? And just the message being, if the message is, that the Enterprise started off as humans first, trek into space. They were reluctant to work with the Vulcans. They meet, the Andorians aren't great. I know there was some Tellarite stuff to end it with. And we've all learned to work together, and that's what it should be. Bookend it with the Romulans having the same sort of situation in the future, but show how it worked out in the future by having those races of the Titan crew, working together. Just all of this, like, things are, we all succeed when we work together, being the message, and end with the founding of the coalition.
Okay, I like that.
That's my episode.
I have, now, very, very interesting some of the things you've come up with there, because I also have a way of judging this episode.
Oh.
And there may be some commonalities.
Interesting. Okay, let's hear it. Let's do it.
I'm about to blow your mind. Now, I'm also about to say a whole bunch of stuff that's not going to make an awful lot of sense to you because someone hasn't watched all of Enterprise. Mine is a big, massive sum up of
great
Enterprise.
Well, it's good. It's good that we have these two different ones then, because it gives us two very. It's good to have these different options. So there might be some overlap,
exactly.
But at least yours is a swan song to that stupid show. Okay.
Me. But yes, right. So you're right. There will be overlap. So I have literally block capitals, no holodeck. Okay.
Done.
But. So I'm not sure how much you remember of Enterprise, but the temporal Cold War took up much of the first two seasons, and then literally a producer says, "Don't like that."
Was that when Manny Kodo came in?
Now, it did get better when Manny Kodo came in. I can't remember. He came in for season 3 and was showrunner at least for season 4. And there's no argument. Enterprise is better when Manny Kodo was there.
Right.
But this is going to address the temporal Cold War. So
okay, sure.
You're cold open.
Which can we say that temporal Cold War is a stupid term? What's a temporal cold? What does that fucking mean? What does it mean? What's a temporal Cold War?
It's knowing that they have the power to do it without actually acting on it. Otherwise, it's just war.
Except that someone is doing something.
And that's what it is. So it's the
Okay,
idea
sure.
of just kind of using my little history degree here. So
Please.
the Cold War in real life is
Yeah.
a shit ton of espionage and behind the scenes and under the table kind of stuff, but no
Gotcha.
one actually hit the button. And that's kind of the idea with the temporal Cold Wars. There's everyone is interfering with everyone else, but no one's actually come out and said, "Oh, by the way, we've just hit the button."
Okay, I'm with you.
Grand. So, cold open. We open on the Enterprise D under heavy attack from unknown ships. Things are extremely grim, and it's a numbers game versus a power. They're fighters, and they are through numbers. They are overpowering the Enterprise D. Now, think in your head of that shot of the Jemadar ship that's about to make a suicide run on the USS Odyssey. So we're taking that frame for frame, but it's the Enterprise D, and it's a Xindi reptilian ship that's about to make a suicide run on the Enterprise D, and with seconds to spare, the Xindi ship is blasted out of the sky by the NX-01.
So very, very Enterprise swinging in to save the Defiant in opening of First Contact.
Very much so. Very much so. So, yeah, okay, so
Like
hold
it.
up. So the audience is sitting. Some of these things should not be should be together at this point. What is going on? Okay, credits. We're going to have a 10-minute remixed version of Faith of the Heart, and it's going to be a karaoke version as well. And the thing is, you can't skip intro, nor will it allow you to play the rest of the episode until you sing along with it. So, Act 1. So, I literally have down here, it's the temporal Cold War run amok. So, Enterprise D.
Long road,
See, there we go.
getting
How hard
from
was that?
there to here.
Ah, this boy does have Faith of the Heart. Enterprise D NX-01, they managed to outmaneuver the Xindi. Sorry, Xindi, but you were just for the shocking opening. And it's pretty much kind of bye-bye now for a while.
Okay.
So they hail. So basically, NX-01 hails D and says, "How are you kids? We're your grandparents." Picard starts to say, "Temporal Prime Directive." Archer cuts him off and says, "It doesn't matter. I know what your future is. I know what your sides are. Time is broken," which is a phrase we have heard rather a lot in the last few weeks.
Right. So you think Patrick Stewart was going to come back for the season finale of Enterprise when it took
Going for this
20
one.
years to get him to do a new show?
Going for this one.
Okay.
So, Archer beams aboard. They're sitting in the observation lounge because we need to see Archer and Picard together. The Romulan supernova was never meant to happen. And it has, because of a temporal weapon, it has effectively splintered time. It created the Kelvin universe. It sent shockwaves through all of the temporal vessels that we know are operating in the 26th and 29th centuries. The Relativity and other ships like it exploded in a very burn-like explosion. And Enterprise got pulled into the shockwave.
Sean, I got
because
beef. Sean, I got beef. I got beef with this. None of that. None of that was.
Let you tell your story.
I'll just shut the fuck up then. All right. I mean, it's interesting that you're using plot points from post 2009 in a 2005 episode, but sure.
Oh yeah, because put it this way, this needs to be fixed. I'm bringing everyone back today.
You're time traveling to fix this episode.
Fucking right, I am. This is needed. This is how much this is needed.
This is time travel and time travel and time travel.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, sorry, continue.
That's right. Yeah. So, Act 2, other ships from time start showing up as well. Right, so that's how the Xindi rocked up. And on cue, both NX-01, not on cue, that's not a John Delancey reference, that's just, yeah. So, at that time, D and NX-01 are hailed by a small group of ships. The warbird Valdor, a Romulan TNG-era warbird, and a Romulan D7 battlecruiser, all of which are being commanded by Donatra, Sela, and the Romulan commander from the original series.
I considered... So one, love that you've got the Romulans like I did. Love that I considered using Sela, and I thought about in the opening lines of mine just having a reference to her, like that she's the one who's like, she's sending them on this mission. to have some sort, or maybe in a voiceover from her. I thought about that.
I like it.
I wrote a lot of fan fiction in the 90s as a child that involved like Sela and the Enterprise. I always wanted more Sela.
Oh, agreed. It'll be a crime if she doesn't return in Picard. A crime.
Oh, she won't. I can't. I don't think they like Denise Crosby. I don't think.
We'll come back to that one.
Anyway, continue.
All right. So both ships go to red alert, but they stand down when Sela explains that they are the last Romulans in existence. So these 3 ships, these are the end of the Romulan race. The supernova is stuck in a temporal loop. It's always happening, and the shockwave is getting bigger. So we're talking universe-ending thing because it's Star Trek, of course.
Right. Very all good things. Okay.
Yeah, indeed. All right. Act 3. Right. Communications are down in subspace because subspace is basically shattered. So we have a mini fleet of the Enterprise D, NX-01, the Valdor, this Warbird, and the D7. The closest system where they can pick up another ship is Wolf 359.
Mm-hmm.
They arrive and the cube is there, surrounded with the wreckage of the fleet. The Queen hails them. She knows exactly what's happened. She wants to fix time because a broken time is imperfect.
I like that. You know what this is reminding me of? Did you ever read the book Star Trek Federation?
No.
It was a book in the 90s, and it was like a time broken, because this is pre all of these other franchises. So it was like TNG, TOS, and
Gotcha.
there was like Jack Crusher was involved, hopping timelines. It was sort of like a Picard, Beverly, Jack, Kirk, but it was sort of time shattered, jumping between different things. Yeah. But I think the book was written during TNG's run, possibly.
Oh, I like that. I do like
look that
also,
up.
I like
Okay.
Jack Rushers there. Okay, cool.
Yep.
So only the combination of the cube and the Warbird's forced singularity have the power to properly detonate the nova.
Love an artificial quantum singularity. Mm-hmm.
Love it. So the Act 4, the cube being its Borg cube, they make a cavity inside big enough for the Warbird to enter. Because
and if you would like to see Sean Ferrick enter a cavity, subscribe to his OnlyFans.
I like to call it my Warbird, so this is all going quite nicely.
If you want to see Sean's Warbird enter a cavity, I gotta stop talking. Okay.
I like it. All right. They all travel through. So the cube opens a transwarp corridor. So they all travel through this corridor. And once they enter, they are hailed, think Worf in parallels. They're receiving something like 11,000 hails at the same time.
Does Troi try to kiss him, and does Worf go, ah?
Possibly. I'll write it in. One that manages to get through is from the USS Voyager. Janeway is approaching the transwarp hub and informs them that there is no way to stop the nova. They need to let it happen. Sela and Donatra vote no, because I'd really rather not to wipe out my race from existence. Thank you very much. The Romulan commander votes yes. Because if you think about it, the original series Romulans were far more closer to Klingons in terms of honor than the later ones are. The Valdor starts to attack, obviously the Warbird's inside the cube. The Valdor starts to attack the fleet, but the Enterprise and the Enterprise NX-01 and the D7 join forces to stop it, while D and the cube race to the finish. Because I really want that image of the Enterprise D and the cube working together. Act 5, at this eternal nova, the cube opens the port, and as Picard orders all weapons, basically they're going to have to detonate this singularity, which will then be focused by the cube at the center of the nova, which will allow the nova to actually go nova and then break this temporal ice that's surrounding it. Picard orders all weapons to fire on that point. The Queen speaks to him telepathically and says, "I'll see you soon, Locutus." Massive boom. Coda. NX-01. So Archer and Daniels, who I'm not sure you'll know who, because Daniels was a temporal agent. Oh, great.
Temporal agent, Enterprise J. Yeah.
So
kind of looks like Tony Hale. Yeah, he kind of looks like Tony Hale from Veep.
Oh, yes, I do know who that is.
Yeah, he kind of looks like Tony Hale. Yeah, okay.
They're discussing the events of what happened, and Daniel says, should wipe your memories, but I'm not going to, because we need to learn from lessons and let this be the beginning of the future, and then we see these are the voyages to play us out.
Okay. So
now you may slate me, sir. Slate me, I say.
So you have obviously abandoned restraints on budget, cast, like
I
that we're
felt
going
it
to
was
get
the only way for this
right. That we're going to
episode.
get Kerry Russell, Denise Crosby, Patrick Stewart, Kate Mulgrew, no
Kerry
DS9.
Russell, are you thinking of Dina Meyer? Dina Meyer was Sinatra.
Dina Meyer was not. Oh,
Kerry Russell now, because I know Kerry. I love Kerry Russell. If we can get Kerry Russell, please do. But
who was Kerry?
She she's in The Americans.
Right, and she was Felicity.
Yes, she was. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I don't know why I always thought she was Sinatra. That's weird.
Dina Meyer from many things, but I know her from Starship Troopers.
Oh, yeah. Wait, no. Kerry Russell's in Am I confusing Kerry Russell and Dina Meyer? Are these two different people that I've merged in my head as one person?
Saw 3,
I have
Angel Trap, and A Jar Full of Acid. This is Dina Meyer.
I have merged these people in my head as one person. That's weird.
I can understand it.
Well, because Kerry Russell's doing Star Wars. She's like,
Yes,
J.J.
she
Abrams
is.
having her show up and do that stuff. Okay, I think
Yes.
Okay, my 40-year-old brain. Okay, so okay, love Sela, love. Okay, no DS9 though. You have no DS9 references.
That was I was even kind of like, even Janeway was kind of like, I knew I want to have Voyager in this,
Right.
but even that's a bit of a stretch.
Right. So you have no budget constraints. So for me, it's still not a goodbye to the Enterprise crew because you've got so much going on with non-Enterprise people. This sounds to me like they get money from Paramount because Enterprise has done its finale and is over, and there's no more Star Trek on the air, to do like a special mini-series event to like say goodbye to Star Trek for a while. That's what this sounds like to me.
I'd even say movie. No, I suppose not even miniseries. I would keep this. To
I don't think
under
they
2
would.
hours.
I don't think they would do it, or like a TV movie, because you couldn't have this much
Something
fan
like your
service
Endgame, exactly.
in a cinematic release, because it would not appeal to anybody who doesn't already know all these episodes. It also sounds like a great book, and it feels like that book would very much be written. It feels very much like Destiny, or because I love that series, or any of the post DS9, post Nemesis stuff. This definitely feels like a Pockets book adventure, maybe a TV movie if they ever did it. But I think it might wrap up the politics of Enterprise. But like, you didn't mention, like, well, and I didn't either, in fairness, because I don't know it. But like, Tucker, Trip, Mayweather, like, what do these people all do? Like, how are they heroes in this? How is this their goodbye? But I love, like, listen, this sounds like what I would write. I had this little, so this is like, early days of my home having a computer, pre-Windows. This is DOS. And I remember going into whatever Word application and typing up what I had written on, like, handwritten with pencil on, like, notebooks, like, in my room, like, and then Sela does this, and then the Enterprise goes here. And I had all these, like, adventures of the D and Rami, and then I go to the computer and, like, type it up and then put them on, like, Billboard fan forums and stuff as, like, a, I don't know, 9-year-old. That's what this reminds me of. Like, this is definitely in the Jack Tracy wheelhouse of, like, fantasy Star Trek adventures. And if you'd like to see a fantasy Star Trek adventure, please subscribe to Sean's OnlyFans. At what point do the subscribers ask for me to be removed from this podcast? Like, at what point does that happen? Episode 5, 6?
When we make a video that isn't what they want, that you join in and everything's great, and it actually is just us in Star Trek uniforms, just playing out one of our 2 scripts that we've just done there.
I kind of always wanted to do a Robot Chicken web series where, like, we get the Enterprise D bridge and, like, we do it with, like, the Playmates figures.
Oh, I have the bridge sitting not 6 feet away from me there.
I gotta rebuy it. That was one of the things that was lost. Anyway, that's a long story. So, all right. So we've got a Yours is much more like, let's say goodbye to Star Trek for a while. Like we're getting in
Yes,
all the
yeah.
references, all the references, all the references. Mine is take the most top level pieces of that terrible episode and put them into a workable adventure with actual stakes. So we took two very different approaches, which I love because it would be very boring if we both pitched the same idea, which might actually happen at some point. There's going to be an episode
once
where we both
start
have the
to-
same idea.
Exactly, because we'll start to talk so much and we'll get to know each other so much better. We'll start to we'll know our own thought processes,
Yeah.
and we'll just end up making every single episode of Star Trek just Threshold.
Yep. Because again, it will end up in us having lizard sex. So, all right. At this point in the podcast, we would review your comments and what you like about what we've said about previous episodes, all of that. So send them in. So in future episodes, we can do that. If you're not following us already, we're at Star Trek Zhuzh, Z-H-U-Z-H. On Instagram. That's where we're going to post some delightful memes and some clips of the show. And by liking and following us, it just shows us that you're listening. So make sure to drop a like and a comment wherever you're listening to this. It helps us reach more subscribers. Check out our Patreon if you'd like to join and maybe watch these episodes with us. That could be fun. You can also follow me at Jack Tracy Official.
And you can follow me on Twitter and I think Instagram as well, at Sean Ferrick. I think they're both the same handle.
I mean, I'm not on Twitter because that's a cesspool of evil, but I am on Instagram, which is a slightly less of a cesspool. And Sean, what are we doing next week?
We are going to take on the best series of them all, which is Star Trek Deep Space Nine's first season. And
I love
next week...
I love a lot of the first season.
Really? Well, I can't wait to hear you sing.
Oh, is this Move Along Home?
Alan Moraine.
Alan Moraine.
Alan Moraine. Then 3 more. It is indeed Move Along Home, and I cannot wait.
Now, okay, so the song that I'm going to write with the ceremonial rhythms is also going to include, it's going to be called Alan Moraine. I'm going to make a dance beat to Alan Moraine.
Works for me.
That's going to be we haven't made we're recording these before we make our theme song. That's going to be the theme song of this podcast. It's going to be us singing Alan Moraine.
I love this.
Oh my God, Move Along Home. That is probably, along with, what is it, Rules of Engagement or something, the weird Worf trial one.
Yeah.
I think the 2 episodes of Deep Space Nine that I find painful to finish. It hurts me.
It's not great.
It hurts me to watch. So again, Shore Leave and now this. I at least gave you Ghost Sex and Riker Troi cameos, and you're giving me Fantasy Hopscotch and the White Rabbit. So one of us is being crueler than the other, I'm gonna have to say.
Exactly. I'm giving you far more license to use fantasy.
Jeez, Alan Moraine. It does sound like something they'd cook on Great British Bake Off. Like this week, chefs, you have to make an Alan Moraine.
And then you have to make 3 more.
And there's no better way to end this episode. See you next week.
Bye. Bye.